Now, what will be the difference between a suppressor and a revertant? That unless the suppressor mutation is in the same gene, which is referred to as intragenic suppressor, or on another gene, but it is very close to the original mutated gene, if these two cases are eliminated, then if you cross it with a wild type haploid, now it will become diploid. Now, if you allow it to sporulate into 4 haploids, that is, you do a tetrad dissection, chances are that the original mutation, let us say originally gene A was mutated, and during suppressor screening, gene B was mutated. In the starting case, both mutation on A and mutation on B are on the same gene, on different chromosomes, but it is in the haploid, right? So only one set of chromosomes are there. Once you cross it with a wild type haploid and then you sporulate it, there is always a possibility that mutant in A will be in one haploid and mutant in B will be in another haploid. Right?
Exactly.
Am I making myself clear, or should I draw it?
No, exactly, sir. I can understand.
Okay.
Sir,
it will be better if
yeah,
you draw
yes,
it because
yes,
I can't understand.
Yes, sir. The last part I also could not
fine. I can clearly see that you guys are huge fan of my fantastic drawing skills. Okay, so okay, so let us say for the sake of simplicity, I am only keeping 2 chromosomes here, and 1 chromosome I am drawing with a wiggly line. Okay. Now say the original mutation was here in gene A. So it is called mutant A. Now when you do a suppressor screen, you are again subjecting it to chemical mutagenesis. Now let us say that the second mutation is in the other chromosome in gene B. So now this AB is still a haploid, right? But this mutant and this mutant together makes it behave like wild type. It is not wild type. It becomes phenotypically wild type because of one of the 3 possibilities that are drawn in your slide, right? Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you want to distinguish between 2 possibilities. One is that the phenotype became wild type because the change that happened here is, changed back to what it originally was, or a new mutation in B has happened. How do you test that? So you take another wild type cell where the same 2 chromosomes. Now here there is no mutation, right? And this will be of A mating type, this will be of alpha mating type. So there will be a diploid. And in the diploid, you will now have 2 copies of the same chromosome, right? And then when meiosis 1 happens, then you will actually have, sorry, I should draw it like this. of which these copies are mutated. These copies are mutated, right? Now when you sporulate it, you will have 4 spores. So in some, you will just get this and this, or you will, sorry, not this, I meant this, or you will get this and this, or you will get this and this. All these possibilities are there, right? Because you have no control over how the sister chromatids will segregate, right? So therefore, when you sporulate this diploid, in some cases you will gain back the original A mutant, which is not going to be possible if it was a revertant. In revertant, after sporulation, none of the spores will be mutated. Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, I would advise that you draw it in your own notebook properly, step by step, not like what I did, that you draw just mutant A, then you draw mutant AB, then you cross it with wild type, make sure that you have 2 copies of each chromosome. Then when you do meiosis 1, make sure you have 4 copies of each chromosome, and then you segregate them independently. Okay.
Yes, sir. I have another question in the same point. Yeah. So taking reference from the art and design paper, they they're saying that in every case of this suppressor thing, especially discussed that they are saying allele specific and gene specific. Gene specific is fine. That I'm getting that. Okay, that second suppressor is not can be applicable, means not can be applicable to regain its phenotype if we make the first suppressor any other gene. So gene specific is fine, but allele specific, how I am getting.
Allele specific is where it is the revertant, that it is that very allele which is being suppressed. Okay, so it can be intragenic suppressors. Most of the cases it will be intragenic suppressors. Like, okay, so let me elaborate it a little bit. So imagine that there are 300 amino acids in a protein, okay, of which, say, amino acid number 2 and amino acid number 47 makes a very specific interaction. So if 2 is mutated to 2' and 47 is mutated to 47', then they again gain back the interaction. But that will not happen if the mutation originally happened in 5, amino acid number 5. Then the same 47' mutant may not be able to restore the interaction. Am I being clear?
Okay, since a single nucleic acid is involved, that's why the allele specificity.
Yeah, it is referring to intragenic suppressor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Okay.
Sir, it's from lecture 5. So
Lecture
there.
5 lecture 5, what did I start with?
So you started
Sir,
with
epistasis.
yeah, epistasis.
Sir,
and
epistasis.
Epistasis.
Okay. So before we go to epistasis, any question on complementation? So you all understood temperature sensitive mutagenesis screen?
Sir, last day where we stopped, so you were asking me when question about a mutation happened and we want to identify the gene which are responsible for growing in galactose as only carbon source. So we also identified the colonies which were specifically not growing in galactose carbon source. So sir, I was thinking of the solution. Should the solution be if we cross the specific mutant with wild type and then did a sporulation and again we find out the spores, like if they segregate in 2:2 manner, will that be a option for us to identify the specific one gene?
You have not identified. You have only determined that this is because of mutation in one gene. Okay, be very clear about it. Identification of the gene means knowing the sequence of the gene.
Okay.
By that method, you only have demonstrated that the mutation was because it happened only in one gene, not in multiple genes together.
Okay. So, sir, if we want to identify that specific gene, what should be the procedure?
I'll come to that.
Okay.
Any question on temperature sensitive screen? Okay. Saurabh, Chandar, you were asking something?
Yes, sir. So in the East genetics, the plate you referred, the plate you showed in the slide, like it was about the I mean the small b and the capital B, the small b one didn't appear, and the capital B one appeared. So like there should be 20 colonies if they all were there, right? And there were only 10, 2 in each row, each column.
What are you, this one? Are you referring to this one?
Appear. Slide didn't appear, sir.
Okay. हाँ, ये problem है. Just a minute. Yeah, are you referring to this one?
Yeah, yes, sir, this one. So in the plate, like we can see that there are 2 colonies in each column, right? So those 2 colonies are because of the 2 capital B's, because the small B's were recessive, and then that's why they didn't form a colony.
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise, they would be 20 colonies total.
Yeah. So if the mutant phenotype, this yellow one, if here the mutant phenotype is because of mutations in multiple genes, okay, let us imagine that if all 3 genes are mutated, then only you see the phenotype. Then when you do this kind of a tetrad analysis, then there is absolutely no way that every haploid will have all the 3 mutants in the same haploid again, right? Like from here, from haploid, it went to diploid, and then you were segregating them again by sporulation. So chances are that all the 3 will not be in the same haploid. So you will recover many tetrads where all the 4 are growing. Then you know for a fact that the mutation was not in one gene.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Did I make myself clear?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Temperature sensitive mutation, anybody? Okay.
And so in the Drosophila genetics also.
No, Drosophila genetics, let us not get there. Okay. First you be here. So,
sir, I had a small question from temperature sensitive screening. Sir, from the experiment of Leland Hartwell, so where we were detecting the growth specific, like the buds are growing and buds are not even coming. So those two states, sir, how were they for the separation of two specific types like CDC 28 and CDC 7? So how they determine that like specific two types in temperature sensitive screening when they were like segregating them from plate 23 to 36 degree, like they were seeing them in a same plate?
Okay. Let me ask this question to Ruchira Patil. Ruchira, is it possible for you to turn on your video?
Video, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
So is it okay without the video or should I turn off the video?
I prefer to see you while we are discussing.
So sir, in this what I from my understanding, these are two different mutants for temperature sensitive mutation. So first of all, the replica plating was done, and like the mutants were identified. Like one was done on 23 degree, one was done on 36 degree, and these two colony specific mutants were identified that they are temperature sensitive, and then these were like they were like slides were prepared for these two colonies, and it was observed under the microscope what was the difference between the slides. Like initially they were plated at 23 degrees, then they were allowed to grow, and suddenly the temperature was changed to 23 degree, and at that time the slides were prepared and it was seen what stage of division they were in.
Okay, I think you have understood. Would you please say it in a more step-by-step manner? Start with this. I have a liquid culture of wild-type cells. Then I treated it with a chemical mutagen. Then what happened? What did I do?
Okay, so you treated it with the chemical mutagen. Then we will take out take the liquid culture, and then we will first incubate it at 23 degree, like plate it and incubate at 23 degree. Then we do replica plating, one at 23 degree and one at 36 degree.
Very good.
Then we identify the mutants which are temperature sensitive, so they will grow at 23 but not at 36. So the colonies were identified. So now we are assuming that these colonies have a temperature sensitive mutants but in different genes specifically.
Yeah.
So now we take these two colonies, then we grow them at 23 degree first initially, and then we suddenly change them to 36 degree. And while this change happens, they grow somewhat, like not completely.
Yeah.
And then these at that stage, these cells were taken, slides were prepared, and they were observed under the microscope to see what was happening during the division.
Very, very good. Excellent answer. So, and then you can see that while in wild type, you see some in which, there is this tiny little thing protruding, which we call a bud. Like there are some even with smaller buds, then some with, equal sized ones, some they have already separated. So different stages of the cell cycle are already visible in the wild type because these are not synchronous culture. These are asynchronous culture. Like the cells are randomly in their different phases of the cell cycle. But one of the mutants, as Ruchira very accurately described, I suddenly changed the temperature to 36, put it on a glass slide and look at it. I do not even see appearance of bud in any of the cells. So I know that the budding process itself is defective here. While in the other, I see that the budding is complete, but they have not seceded from each other. So I know that these are arrested at different stages of the cell cycle. And a very similar thing was done for when Randy Sheckman discovered all the processes of intracellular trafficking. We will be learning that as well towards the end of this course. So this is how this temperature sensitive mutants work, the screens are done. Is that clear, Piyusha?
Yes, sir. So one thing which I want to ask here, so we already segregated the types of mutants during the last plating in 36 degree, or we were not sure? We discovered that after putting down.
We did not know. Like when we are growing the liquid culture and added the chemical mutagen to it, let us say my aspiration is to screen at least 1 lakh colonies, because yeast has 10,000 genes. So if I look at 1 lakh colonies, chances are that I will have at least 1 gene mutated in the entire population. Each of the genes mutated at least once in the entire population. So I will take, say, 10 microliter and plate it on a plate. So because I have 5 ml, so I will be able to plate 500 plates. In 500 plates on each, if we have around 200 colonies, I have 1 lakh colonies. Now I will replica plate it. So I will plate it and grow it in 23 degrees centigrade, replica plate it on 2 plates. So the first plate of 500, first set of 500 plates, I will keep it in refrigerator, and I have now generated 2 replica plates, set B and set C. I'll put set B at 23 degree and set C in 36 degree, and then I will compare each of the members of the set to see which colonies are growing nicely at 23 degree but not at 37 degree. And there is absolutely no reason to believe that any mutant that fails to go at 37 degree is a cell cycle mutant, because the chemical mutagen will hit any cell and every cell. Well, sorry, any gene and every gene, right? So then I will look at them under the microscope by going back to the 23 degree plate, identifying the colony that was missing in 37, grow it, heat shock it, and then look under the microscope. Those that will give me morphological features that are likely because of cell cycle defect. Those are the colonies I will mark on set B, that is, which was growing in 23 degrees centigrade, and say I got 50 such mutants. Then I will do the further studies with those 50. Okay, Promit Ganguly.
Yes, sir.
Please turn on your video. So now, following the process that Ruchira described, we have identified 50 mutants that are likely to be defective in cell cycle. Now, what is the next step that I should do? I need to identify the genes of important for cell cycle. Just a minute. What is the next step that I should do?
So since we marked the colonies on 23 degree Celsius, the plates we had on 23 degrees Celsius, so we can isolate their DNA and we can go for sequencing to know which gene is defective, and compare it with
unless your lab is funded by Bill Gates, it is not going to happen. So you are forgetting one critical step. Okay, let me see who can say that. Kuna, would you like to try? What should be the next step? Kuna, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to try?
For the identification of like the genes. Hello?
Kuna, you turn on your video. You are having difficulty with video. You please turn on your video.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's drawn on, sir.
Okay. So you have 50 mutations. You have marked 50 mutations. What will be the next step that you should do?
Sir, like for the identification of that mutation, sir?
For identifying as many genes as you can that are important for successful cell cycle.
Okay. Sir, actually, sir, I did not get that.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Can you please repeat that question, sir, once again?
The question is that you want to identify as many genes as possible that are important for cell cycle.
Importance for cell cycle, sir. Okay, sir. Oh, sir, we can, sir, we try for like, if you like already know that genes, then you can use.
No. This is in continuation with what Ruchira described. That you have already
after like
50 mutants.
Yes, sir. After like a thermal screening, we have identified that colony which have been the thermal temperature sensitive.
Yeah, you have identified 50
such sir, then okay. Then like we want to try the identification of that genes, like the temperature sensitive genes in that mutant. That's my question, sir.
In which mutant? You have already identified 50 mutants, 50.
Yes, sir.
Now what will you do next?
50 then.
Okay, I will give you a hint.
Yes, sir.
You have identified 50, let us say that you have originally seen 200 colonies.
Yes, sir.
That could not grow in presence of at 37, 36 degree, but could grow at 23 degree.
Yes, sir.
So these are all temperature sensitive mutants, right?
That's growing 200 degrees and
23 degrees. 200.
Sir, 200 colonies.
200 colonies could grow in 23, but not in 36.
Yes, sir.
So these are all temperature sensitive mutants, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, for each of these 200, you view them in liquid culture and quickly shifted their temperature and looked under microscope and found defects as shown on the screen in only 50.
Yes, sir.
So now you know that at least these 50 have defect in temperature in the cell cycle.
Yes, sir.
But your ultimate goal is to identify all the genes or as many genes as possible that are involved in cell cycle. So what will be the next step for you? You have come down from 1 lakh colony to 200 colony to 50 colony. Now what?
Sir, like if you have like 100 project and the funding, then we can check like the standards, the mRNA expression of mRNA of that 50 colonies, different mRNA expression, and other that 200 colony.
Okay, so that will not give you the answer. It is not just that I will give you a 0, the experiment also will give you 0. Because imagine that it's a point mutation.
Yes, sir.
A missense mutation.
Yes, sir.
Will the mRNA be produced?
No, sir.
Huh?
mRNA produces similar. If
then your transcriptomic approach will not lead you to anything.
Yes, sir.
Did you understand why I said that transcriptomic will not lead you to anything?
Yes, sir. Because that point mutation did not affect that amino acids changing that amino acid.
No. It's a missense mutation. Amino acid has changed. But the way transcriptomic analysis is done, which I will teach you, like I have already delivered that lecture and you have the recording. The way transcriptomic analysis is done, that will not be able to distinguish between an mRNA that has wild type sequence and an mRNA where one base is changed. It will still detect the mRNA as present. So what should you do next?
Different genes responsible for that.
Okay, so let me ask Muktesh Kumar. Muktesh, थोड़ा प्रकट होइए भैया. What did you do?
And cross between the mutant and the normal phenotype.
Your audio is not good. Try again.
Hello?
No, your audio has problem.
Hello?
No. Can anyone else hear him clearly?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, not at all, Muktesh. Your microphone seems to be a problem. Are you using laptop or mobile? Okay, I cannot hear anything from you. Anyway.
Can I try?
Yeah, who is this?
Sir, Antara.
हाँ ठीक है बोलो.
Sir, I'm not sure. Like, we can, if we can take one particular, like 50 mutants we have found out, and then we can grow each colonies in liquid media, and then we can like plate it. So these are haploids, so we can mate it with another haploid where we know exactly the mutation where in which gene it has happened. So if we grow, if we made those both mutants and then we plate it at first 23 degrees of this, if they and then at 36 degrees, if they both like if it grows, then the mutation is in the mutant is not present in the gene which we thought it was. And if it doesn't grow, then we can like somewhat understand that the mutation has happened in the particular gene which we took.
I will give you 3 out of 10. That is significantly better than your 2 other friends. Okay, Ayush raised hand. Let me hear Ayush first. आयुष बोलो क्या बोलना चाहते हो?
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
So what we will do is we will do complementation analysis. We will take all the 50 colonies that were not growing on 36 degrees Celsius. We will cross them one by one, like one with 2, one with 3, one with 4, and like this all the colonies will be crossed. Then we will grow them at 36 degrees Celsius, and we will see which all colonies, which all diploids are growing on 36 degrees Celsius. These are not in the same complementation group. This means that they are in different genes. And if we see a phenotype where there is no growth at 36 degrees Celsius, this means that they are in the same complementation group. They are non-complementing. And this means that they are in same gene. So this is how we will find out how many genes are actually there which are responsible for cell cycle defect.
Very good, Ayush. I will give you 9.5 out of 10. The only 0.5 marks I will deduct because you said that this way we will figure out how many genes are there. The only qualification is that how many, minimally how many genes are there. Okay? Because complementation analysis is not exhaustive. Okay? If you have 10 complementation groups, you know at least 10 genes are involved. It does not rule out the possibility that there is an 11th and a 12th gene that are also there, but you did not get a mutation for those.
Sir, by this, how will we know which gene is mutated? I thought you asked which gene we wanted to know.
We have not gotten there yet, na?
Okay, okay, sir. Sorry.
हाँ,
But I misunderstood.
तो destination तक पहुंचने के लिए आप कुछ भी कर दोगे तो नहीं चलेगा ना?
Yes, sir.
So now you know that you have 10 complementation groups, right? So at least you have 10 genes that are involved. ठीक है? Now what you will do is this I have taught extensively in another chapter, like in another lecture. I don't remember which lecture it is, but I will tell you. You imagine for the time being, okay, so it is not there, okay, but it has been taught. I will show you where it has been taught. It is there in one of the lectures that I have shared with you. Okay, so let us imagine that you have a collection of plasmids. Each plasmid, like in the collection, you have every gene cloned in a plasmid in a manner that if you introduce the plasmid inside of an yeast cell, the gene will be transcribed and translated to a protein. Okay, how we get there, we will learn it when we go to this part of the course. You just imagine for the time being that you have an Eppendorf tube, 1.5 ml tube, within which there is a liquid, within which there are many plasmid, billions of them. It's a collection. Within this collection, you have every gene of yeast cloned in a plasmid like this. It is cloned in a manner that if you introduce it inside the yeast cell, the gene will be transcribed and translated. Now you have 10 complementation groups. None of these so the point of going down from 50 to 10 is that the step that I am going to describe now, you do not have to do it for 50 different mutants, but only 10 different mutants. You will now take this collection and transform your mutant number 1, complemented any representative member of complementation group 1. Now this any member of complementation group 1, which is a haploid, by definition cannot grow at 36 degrees centigrade, right? So if you transform that mutant cell with this library and then plate it at 36 degree, if in any of the mutant yeast cell you have if in any of the mutant yeast cell, if you have the plasmid that codes for gene A and mutant 1 was say is mutated in gene A, now that plasmid provides the functionality of gene A. So now it will be able to grow in presence of 36 degree. Is it clear up to this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the advantage that microorganisms give us, that one microorganism can be transformed with only one plasmid at a time. So even though you are transforming with the whole library, within one cell only one plasmid will go in. Okay. Now you will only look for which are the colonies that are growing at 36. You don't care for those that are not growing, because your whole population M1, which was mutated in gene A, was not able to grow on 36 to begin with. You only look for those that could grow in presence in 36 degree. You know that that particular mutant therefore will have the plasmid coding for the good copy of A gene. Then you simply do a mini prep, isolate the plasmid, send it for sequencing. You don't need Bill Gates. Amitabh Bandyopadhyay can fund that project. Is it clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you understood the whole pathway, right? The whole path, the way we want to go. I will quickly recapitulate it for your understanding. It does not matter whether it is a temperature sensitive mutation or an auxotropic mutation or something else. You have, after your initial round of mutagenesis screen, you found some 500 mutants. Okay, well, whatever condition you have defined. Growth in the presence of galactose, growth at 36 degrees centigrade, growth in the presence of a strange chemical, whatever you decide. Of these 500, if you have a way of narrowing them down further for your particular interest, you do it. In most of the cases, you will not have that advantage that Lee Hartwell had for cell cycle mutants, or Randy Shackman had for the intracellular trafficking mutants. In most cases, you will not have that advantage. Now, you do complementation analysis to figure out how many complementation groups are present in there. Then, with the assumption that each complementation group is mutated in one particular gene, then you take one member from each of the complementation groups, transform them with a library of yeast genes, and then you look for which transformant, if any, is now behaving wild type for the criteria that you have set. Okay, I want to emphasize again, they are phenotypically wild type for the criteria you have set. They are genotypically not wild type. They already have a mutation and now they bear a plasmid. They are phenotypically wild type for the criteria that you have set. Once you find those, you simply isolate the plasmid from there using miniprep and send it for sequencing. You get to know exactly which gene it is mutated in. Right?
Yes, sir.
थोड़ा आवाज दो, नहीं तो मुझे समझ में कैसे आएगा कि you understood.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, one thing, like here we are having the assumption, we are taking into account that each complementation group is mutated in one gene.
Yeah.
If like in reality, what happens actually?
Almost always that is true. Very rarely you will find there have been cases which is called intragenic complementation. So two mutants mutated in the same gene, but then also they can complement each other because of intragenic complementation.
Intragenic complementation.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. I will not proceed. I will now ask my favorite difficult questions. Is that fine?
Sure, sir.
Okay. I need a volunteer who will raise hand. Bir Shahid chahiye. So, okay, Ayush has raised hand. Here is the question. You have 50 mutants that could not grow at 36 degrees centigrade. Okay, Ubed, I will come to you next. Now, mutant number 5. You can still see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Mutant number 5. Mutant number 5, you crossed it with number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, whichever. And you saw that none of the diploids, meaning 5-1, 5-2, none of the diploids can grow at 36 degrees. What will be your guess? First, Ayush.
So, since none of them are growing, this means that this is at least one gene is there, and
No,
I mean
I am being
these
very
all
specific.
yeah.
I am being very specific. Complementation group number 5.
Okay.
So any representative, the mutant number, you had 50 mutants, right?
Right.
Mutant number 5, you cross it with any of the other mutants, it is, the diploid is not growing in 36 degrees centigrade.
So this means that only one gene is responsible for that particular process that we are looking for. Okay,
that's the first thing. Because it is extremely unlikely, it is discarded. But if you write it in the exam, I will give you, for good thinking, 2 points. And then I would expect you to rule that out because, most pathways involve multiple genes.
Right.
Now give me the real answer. Okay. Ubed, you try once. उबैद किधर गया? भाग गया।
यस सर, यस सर, यही पे हूँ सर। एक्चुअली कनेक्शन इंटरप्ट हुआ तो मैंने सुना ही नहीं।
अरे बाप्स रे बाप्स। So you have 50 mutants, right?
Yes sir.
Mutant number 5.
So
you crossed it with every mutant, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, every mutant. In none
Yes,
of
sir.
the cases, the diploid could grow at 36 degree. What will be your first?
So if it is not the case of complementation, in all the cases in all the 50 cases, it is not the possibility that only one gene is mutated. Maybe the two genes are mutated and they have some interaction and they are not growing.
Okay. You rule out the possibility that two genes are mutated, and in any case that is not okay. Okay. Ankit Rao, you also raised hand. You want to try?
Right. Like, I think the mutation 5, like you are ruling out the possibility that two genes are mutated.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if the same gene is mutated, then.
Okay, I will give you the answer because I am hungry. I need to go for dinner.
Okay, sir.
Hello,
the
sir.
Answer is.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, sir, likely like mutant 5, the mutation is occurring on the dominant allele of that in the mutation mutant 5.
You brought the boat to the stand and then sunk it. There is, in the wild type haploid, there is no question of dominant, right? Mutationist screen was done on haploid, right?
Okay, yes, sir.
Yes,
but
sir. Sir, mutant 5 is the mutation in essential gene.
No, essential to nahi hai. If it were essential, then 23 degrees it will not grow. What you actually wanted to say and what the
Sir,
actual,
can I try?
Yeah.
So maybe in the mutant 5, the mutation has occurred in the mutation has occurred in such a way that the mutation gives rise to a dominant negative allele.
Absolutely correct. That is the answer.
That is why in diploid no growth
Yes.
is observed at 36 degrees.
Yes, because as we have learned in the first class, that dominant negative dominates over the wild type, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now here is a question for the whole class. I will give you 48 hours. Friday, I want the answer. Then how would you understood how you will identify the genes for the other mutations, right?
Yes, sir.
Now come back with the answer, 48 hours. How would you identify the mutation that the gene that is mutated in number 5?
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yes.
Fine. So we will meet again on Friday. Okay? अरे कोई आवाज ही नहीं देता है ठीक है चलो टाटा बाय बाय
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good night, sir.
Sir, actually, you are writing that.
Good night.
Okay. Oh,
Good night, sir.
you don't need to write. I will share the recording. All the recordings are also in the YouTube channel as well as Hello IIT.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Chalo.
Okay, I
Bye.
think you have.
हाँ? उमेद कुछ बोल रहे थे?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Recording is on. I was.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.